The Alien franchise has been trying to recapture its glory days for longer than I've been alive. The original '79 film and James Cameron's sequel are still pillars of the sci-fi genre, but every attempt to try and produce a third film on that same level has fallen frustratingly short. Alien 3's production was so maligned its own director disowned it. Alien Resurrection felt like a tired final bite at the apple, and even when Ridley Scott did return, it resulted in two films that were much more concerned with visuals and myth building than anything resembling narrative cohesion. And while this is a franchise infamous for its troubled productions and studio interference, Fede Alvarez was actually a really smart choice to direct an attempt at revitalizing the franchise. He proved with 2013's Evil Dead that he can create a better-looking, more intense version of a horror classic, and some of the ideas the Xenomorph represents mirror the big twist from Don't Breathe. The end result is Alien Romulus, which is not only set in between the events of the first two films, but is very much an attempted hybrid of the two. And while I don't think it's out of the question to crown Romulus as the best installment since Aliens, it does start to stumble on its way to the finish line. The film sees a group of 20-somethings stuck on a dreary mining colony planet where escape is nearly impossible and death from prolonged exposure to the mines is all but certain. Not wanting to wind up like their deceased parents, the group learns that an abandoned space station has drifted into the planet's orbit. If they can sneak on and steal its cryogenic sleep chambers, they'll have the means to escape the colony and survive the trip to the nearest neighboring planet. Unfortunately, when the team arrives, they find what's left of what looks like a massacre, and after a series of unfortunate events involving their space shuttle, they have to find their way through the station while avoiding facehuggers, fully grown xenomorphs, more machinations from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, and the ticking clock of the station heading towards the planet's rings where it'll be destroyed upon impact. Kaylee Spaney plays the group's Ellen Ripley, David Johnson is the android, Archie Renault is the love interest whose mysterious backstory seems to have wound up on the cutting room floor, Isabella Merced is the pregnant mother hoping for a better life for her child, Spike Fern is the jerk you're expecting to get killed off first, and Eileen Wu is both the pilot and the unfortunate soul on the film's poster. Both the space station and the film itself are deliberately split in half in an attempt to capture what made both Alien and Aliens great. Most of the first half is spent running from facehuggers and one cunning xenomorph, and once the survivors reach the second half, a bunch more show up and our heroes finally have some guns to even the score. It's all incredibly well shot, and thanks to lighting and practical effects, the xenomorphs have never looked better. The expected violence, gory kills, and body horror are all here too. And while there's virtually no mystery to these creatures, given this is the 7th film in the franchise, props to Alvarez for making them feel like a nearly unkillable threat again. Some of the best scenes are actually when he attempts a new spin on something previously established about the creatures, like creating an aggressive facehugger swarm, or trying to navigate a zero-gravity room filled with their trademark acidic blood. Unfortunately, during the attempt to blend the first two movies together, certain ideas from the other titles fell into the mix, which really start to muck things up in the third act. This includes stopping the movie on a dime to recreate two of the franchise's most famous shots and Ripley's iconic catchphrase, bringing back a particular plot point from Prometheus, and taking another swing at one of the franchise's most ridiculed ideas in a surprise fourth act. A lot of the critics avoided that spoiler in their review since the embargo dropped earlier this week, but now that it's the weekend, I think it's all fair game. Spoilers from here on out. So we find out at the start of the film that Weyland was able to salvage organic materials from the wreckage of the first movie, but that eventually led to another xenomorph being born and killing everyone on this station. This one also has a partially destroyed android that's made to resemble Ian Holm through voice and facial CGI, something I bet will be a talking point given Holm died back in 2020. I don't know, guys. I get the idea behind it, but we've had so many androids in this franchise. Did we really need to revive the dead for this one? Anyway, the android goes by Rook, and he's still trying to carry out his mission of getting a payload to the mining colony, which turns out to be the black goo from Prometheus.
What was that black goo?
Apparently, Weyland intends to give it to its workers in order to speed up their evolution process so they won't just die in the mines after a few years. I'd make a joke about how they're completely ignoring the events of the last two Scott films, but this is the poster child for fictional companies that try really stupid ideas in the name of potential profits. It's kinda on brand for them. Fast forward to the third act where Merced injects herself with the goo, thinking it'll help her recover from the injuries she suffered throughout the film. We get what seems to be the finale, only for her to wake up from cryosleep and give birth to a heavily mutated child. That's right, we're doing the human, alien, newborn hybrid thing from Resurrection again. Only this time it looks more like the engineers from Prometheus and less like Skeletor. And while the creature gets the movie's best jump scare and best death, I could never shake the feeling of why did we need to attempt this again? I'd get it if it were a big reveal like this is what the aliens are going to look like going forward, but its death means this was just another one-off. It's kind of a low note for the movie to go out on, and why I'm seeing so many positive reviews with this same criticism over and over. And don't get me wrong, this is mostly good stuff. Spaney holds her own in the leading role, and Johnson gives by far the most interesting performance as the franchise's latest take on a duplicitous android. But this felt like a film in need of an ending, and instead it settled for fan service and eventually drifted into recreating something nobody wanted the first time around. In a year full of new installments in established sci-fi titles, Alien Romulus definitely lands on the weaker side. But while it still isn't the long-awaited successor to Scott and Cameron's masterpieces, it's significantly better than what the franchise has been offering for the last 30 years. I'd happily watch another one from Alvarez if he's given a little bit more freedom to take things in his own direction. And if that doesn't work, just have it fight Predator again. Thanks for watching.